Hi, I'm Loza. I'm here with Judit Mozsolics. Hi, Judit. I'm so happy that you're here.
Hi, I'm glad to be here too.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about what's happening for you in your work life right now. Where are you at and what kind of stuff you're passionate about?
Okay, so I just graduated from the health coaching school last November. So I started out as a holistic health coach since then. And right now I'm doing one-on-one coaching online mostly. And it's kind of like a slow process in a while because I just moved to the States and I just moved to Atlanta, Georgia last September as well. So I don't really know anyone here either. So it's kind of like I just moved here, plus I just graduated. So it's kind of like everything came at the same time. So, but anyway, I started online coaching, and then my what I work on is I mentor women who forget how to put themselves first and who lost true connection to themselves. And I help them how to reduce stress and how to become to their most aligned selves through whole food, through self-love and the mindful self-care practice. So that's my main focus at the moment. But I plan to do group coaching in a short period of time, probably in a few months I might start doing it, and then I plan to do workshops. So like I have like all these ideas, like I'm trying to just put my focus into one thing or two things, and then I just need to put myself out there more in a way, like since no one really knows me here, they don't really know what I do. So that's why I definitely need like more exposure in a way. But I have a couple clients, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, that's awesome. I love how you said about how you're focusing on women who have lost touch with themselves and
Yeah.
putting themselves first.
Yeah.
So we said that is so that I mean that's so common. That's a
Oh,
huge thing.
yeah.
How did you come to that? Like, how did you have the passion to work with those kind of women?
Um, I was a little hard time to figure out what part or like which target market or like which people I would want to focus on. And then it just evolved. I just know that I went through some things, and then how much I didn't put myself first, so how much I was stressed, how much I didn't love the way I am. So like I think it's some parts came through my own experience, and then I just experienced it from almost all of my clients who I worked with, that they had the same struggle. And I just totally realized, which might be, common sense, that if you don't put yourself first, especially if you have like an illness or like a disease, then you are going to have a much harder time to heal and to actually make progress towards getting better. And so basically that's how I wanted to put this as my focus.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, what are some things that you could recommend to women that are listening and are thinking like, "Wow, that's me. I have a hard time putting myself first and devoting time to my dreams." Like, what are some things that you think anybody who's in that boat could do today or this week to start that process of rewiring?
Right. Well, it really is important what you eat. So even though that's not the very most, or like I would say what you eat is just secondary, but it's still important. So like I would definitely say that who wants to feel better in a way, or balanced, or like more even just giving more attention, or like more self-love, or like more focus on themselves, it would be important to just to think of a few tips, like for example, start drinking more water, start eating more mindfully, like slow down, chew. Like chewing is so essential, and many people just don't do that. Just when you're eating, just don't look at your phone, don't read, just be there, be in the moment, enjoy your food. um, that's like one thing. And then As for the other one, I love meditation, and I would definitely suggest it or recommend it to everyone. If it's just 3 minutes a day, or if it's just 5 minutes a day, if it's just, watching your breathing, that's already a huge thing. But there is, like, of course, a million kinds of meditation you can do. Or what I love also is journaling. So, like, I would definitely suggest it to anyone or everyone who struggles with having a hard time, to either put themselves first, or having a hard time to figure out why is that happening. So these would be definitely my very first recommendations, I think.
So what kind of journaling, like let's say, just sitting down and opening a journal and not really sure what to do, like how do we start journaling?
Yeah, so to those who, to some point, especially girls, all of us, had like our little journals when we were small kids, and then we basically just wrote down our days, or we wrote about our big crashes in the kindergarten and all that. So I'm just saying that if you never, or like if you wrote a journal back then as a kid and you didn't really actually write it in a while, then just start out as if you would talk to a friend. Like at the end of the day, I usually write down what happened, how it made me feel. Many times I write down what I eat, how that food made me feel. Or if I was stressed, I'm trying to figure out why I was stressed. Or if something happened, at the end of the day, I always try to think it through, that why that happened. And if there is still like a bad feeling around that inside of me, then I try to think what else I could have done, or not like, beating myself up, just like thinking it in a way that for next time I will know that what I could do in another way. Or sometimes the reason why I like it, because we don't like we wouldn't even think, like, that was a friend of mine who asked me, but I know what's in my mind, like why should I write it down, like why does it make sense? And then I told her, just try it. Like we wouldn't even think that when we actually start writing, like our pen starts flowing and thoughts come up that wouldn't necessarily come up just from thinking about something. And it can be magical sometimes, because thoughts or feelings or even solutions come up that you would have never thought if you just think about something. So that's why, or that's how I would just like write about anything that happened that day, and then it's gonna just flow and it's just gonna evolve.
That's awesome. That's super approachable. So do you know if your friend ever did it?
She tried it, yeah, and then she called me back. She was like, "Why is it awesome? Like I wrote like 4 pages." I was like, "I told you." Like that's how it is. I'm not saying it's gonna always happen, because sometimes it's just like, "Well, I had a cool day," it doesn't have to be like. It's not something you have to push. I don't write every day. I just I try to write at least a few things about that day, but then mostly I just write a longer version of the daily journal if something important happened, bad or good, so it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I need to write. So it doesn't have to be like something that you force.
Yeah, that's a really great practice, because even just taking the time to sit down and do it, that's already putting ourselves first.
Exactly.
Taking that time.
Yeah. And sometimes like I also got that feedback back from clients that they were just sitting there and then they were like, oh my gosh, what do I write about? So like you need to face yourself in a way, and that can be scary, because we are like in this super fast-paced world where we don't even actually look inside of us anymore. So like we kind of need to meet ourselves in a way, like in a true way, an honest way, where there is no one else there, just only us. So sometimes it's scary, and I got that back from my clients a couple of times, that it was just like so intimidating in a way that, oh my gosh, that was only me and my thoughts.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then the practice of pouring those thoughts onto the page and letting them out sort of like takes the pressure down from the inside, rather than letting it all flow in.
You got that point very well. Yeah, like that even releases stress. That's one of the things that it also does is just so, it has so many benefits. Like you wouldn't necessarily thought when you were like, write a journal, what am I, 4 years old? You know, like, like, no, like it can be really good.
For sure.
Yeah.
So is that something that, like, what else is part of your personal self-care, putting yourself first practice right now?
I usually have, if I have time, I usually at least take half of my Sunday for just reading, journaling, meditation. I have like a bath many times, you know, with like some Epsom salts or like some lavender, or just put some relaxing music on. So, and then I just really am just with myself in a way. So I just do whatever it feels good. So if I want to meditate for an hour, then I meditate for an hour. If I want to, you know, go outside and lay on the ground, like on a blanket or something, or if I want to walk. So like for me, it's not always the same, but it definitely is including something that's doesn't have to do anything with my laptop, doesn't have to do anything with my phone. Only if I listen to meditations from my phone. Most of the time I'm just by myself. I really don't want to be around anyone because I just really want to feel supported by myself, you know, if it makes sense in a way. So those are the things I usually do. Like I would read, meditate, write, or even though I do these almost every day, like those ones are when sometimes I ask questions about myself, like, okay, so if I'm, you know, if I had a more lower week or I was feeling down for some reason, then I would ask myself that why was that, or like what's happening in my life right now that is causing that, or like I still to this day sometimes I ask myself that, okay, who am I really, or like, you know, if I have those moments when I feel like I kind of lost myself in something, then I would just like ask questions, or I even just listen to podcasts like about these topics I'm interested in. So yeah, it can be really anything that makes me feel good. I just really need to make sure that there is no, you know, electrical devices are included, or like really nothing, just me and, you know, music, something like that.
That's fantastic. And it definitely requires this kind of comfort with the company of oneself. So like you were
Yeah.
saying that some of your clients were telling you like, wow, it was just me and my mind and my thoughts when I came to the page. So do you have a lot of feedback like that people are not immediately comfortable with spending time with themselves alone?
Sometimes, I mean, I had one client who was she was just so intimidated, like it was even hard to listen to her because she was just not okay with herself at all. And she, when I told her, why don't you try to journal, she was like, I couldn't write. She was like, I just couldn't. She was like, I started writing and then it felt super, you know, it was like discomforting, or like it was so uncomfortable that I stopped. Or she was like, I was like, so did you try this meditation? And she was like, I just couldn't do it because my thoughts, you know, were so distracting, and then I just couldn't. So like, and then with her, it was really hard because she just was completely disconnected from her true self, like completely. Like she was just living her 9-to-5 job. She was just, you know, she has one kid, so like of course she's super busy. Even at the weekends, she was always trying to meet her kids and her husband's expectations. So even if it wasn't conscious, she was just not really on good terms with herself. And then with her, it was really hard, but finally we got through, but it was hard for sure. So it
How did
happens
you get through
sometimes.
that?
I just kept asking her questions and questions, and then we actually got to that point really deep when it broke to the, like, exploded out of herself, that what was the really deep reason of the root, that why she just couldn't do it.
That's fantastic, you know, because she chose to come and be your client and commit to the sessions and keep showing up.
Yeah.
And that's really what's required to have the breakthrough. You know, you don't need to have like an aptitude going into something, but just to have that commitment to keep showing up. And just that is like a sign of preliminary trust in oneself, right? Like to book that session.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really fantastic. Congratulations that you helped her.
Thank you.
Like, move through that.
Yeah, that's why people many times they ask me like, why do you need like a coach? Like me as a health coach, I'm kind of like, a lot of people don't know what that means, and when I tell them that it's kind of like a mixture of like a nutritionist and a life coach, sometimes they still don't get it. And then when, for example, I have like an initial session with them, or I have like a little 2 or 3 minutes of you know, showcase in a way that I show them how it is with a coach, and then what they don't know about it, that how valuable it is if someone is actually listening to you, like without disrupting you, without really just listening to what you have to say. And sometimes people like feel just better from just talking about what's really wrong with them, you know, without even me. I'm just listening, and then at the end they were like, oh my gosh, I love this session. I like, and then it's just really like, that's how we are humans. Like sometimes we think that our thoughts are not relevant, you know, or we just, that's again, you know, self-love, or it comes, and it's not always conscious. Like it doesn't always come through your mind that, oh my gosh, I really think that my thoughts are invaluable or something, you know. Mm-hmm. And then when people work with a coach who is always there, who supports them, who is actually someone who they can trust and they can talk to, then that's like something else. And I experienced it on my own skin, so it's not always because I'm a coach, you know, so I know how it is with others.
So you mean that you had a coach or have a coach right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so valuable. Like you're saying, for us, like in this culture that we're so distracted, and especially for people who keep giving to someone else first, it's so rare to be listened to have that space to actually speak.
Yeah.
And do you find that people start to speak to you on a level that's much deeper than if, let's say, you were to meet with someone at a cafe as friends and just to say like, hey, what's up? And then when you start a session with someone and start asking them, people kind of open up a lot more than kind of like a friend to friend interaction?
Yeah, for sure. Not everyone. And it of course takes time. So it's not going to happen on the first session or in the second. Probably after like 1 month or 2 months, we start talking about things that is like deeper and deeper. And even if I talk with them usually in the beginning about, you know, what to eat, how to eat healthier, it always ends up, most of the time, it ends up being about something totally else, what's deep inside them. And that only comes to the surface a little bit later. But yeah, for sure. It doesn't always happen with everyone, but most of the people open up much more than if I just had someone to talk with in the cafe.
Yeah. It's so valuable to have that support and to have someone like you as a coach to mirror back what the person's saying. And I just, you know, like you're saying people ask you like, oh, why does one need a coach? It's really an experience that we don't get culturally right now to be listened to on that level.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm curious, in the beginning you were mentioning how you had an experience in your life that put you on this trajectory of valuing self-care and putting yourself first. So would you be willing to share a little bit of that experience?
Sure. It's basically, I'm still in this process, but I also have a thyroid disease, which I'm healing right now. Well, I've been healing it, so I'm in the process. And when I started to dig deep about thyroid, like the mental reasons or like the metaphysical reasons of why I actually have this issue, I started to dig deep in, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the chakras. Mm-hmm. So like it's obviously the throat chakra, and then the throat chakra is all about that. So if you don't put yourself first, if you don't dare to say what you think, if you don't stand up for yourself, if you're not communicating clearly, if you're a victim, or if you are in this victim mode, so all kinds of stuff. And I all experienced this. Some of it is still present in my life, but I started to work on it about 2 years ago, very consciously. And some of it is just so crazy because I see that some of it comes from my mom, because I can totally see that pattern in her life. And so it's actually a good mirror for me, because many times when I see what she does, and if it annoys me, then I exactly know that triggers something, and it's like, oops, okay, I gotta make sure it doesn't happen in my life. Or I'm just still, it just happens sometimes. Like I used to put myself into situations where I could be the victim, or where I could be, even not consciously, of course, why would I do that? But like, while I was having like a hard time, for example, I had a hard time a couple years ago when I lost my job and I didn't find a new one. And I started to be this, this girl who you need to feel sorry for because she doesn't have a job. And then all I did was, desperately crying on a couch for a couple of days. And then I didn't really do anything else. I was just blaming everyone. So like, that was one thing that I was like, oh my gosh, like you got to do something else. And when I look back to it, I was like, okay, so that was all those things, like, well, not all of them, but there was a lot of things that actually connects with the thyroid and the throat chakra. So that's like some part of it for sure.
Yeah, I find it so fascinating to start to look at the energetic, physical components of an illness, and to start to heal that, and then come to it from all these different angles. Like you were saying, some people, you start to speak about nutrition, but then it becomes this other deeper belief, thought pattern issue. And then it's probably a lot of the healing that happens right there that then goes back and allows the better nutrition choices, and for those nutrition choices to even be effective.
All right, that's very true. And then it can, if you think about it, it's obvious, but we mostly don't even realize it, that if we feel better about ourselves, how you just said, we tend to make better food choices. Or if we eat better, we tend to feel better at the same time. So this is like this connecting circle that goes back and forth.
Yeah, the healing journey is such an exciting and fascinating experience if we allow it to be, and we can discover so much about ourselves. And so did you change careers to be a life coach? Does that have anything to do with like your journey of healing your thyroid? Or
that actually, the reason why I found the school was because I was trying to heal myself. And then that's how I ended up, or like I was just researching, and that's how I found the school. And then through the school, once I became a health coach, then it kind of like became clear for me that I can't only help myself, but I can help others. So it was kind of like the healing journey led me to there, kind of, yeah, in a way.
Awesome. So you just moved to the States, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Well, 1.5 years ago, but it just feels like I just moved there.
So how does it feel? Is it a new culture for you and a new experience?
Oh, it is. Yeah. I'm still to this day are having a hard time sometimes, or like it's probably everyone. It doesn't have to be the States who moves, to a new, well, it might be or need to be a new country, but it's hard sometimes because, I left my family there, I left my friends, and I left my comfortable life. So everything is new here. And I like it here a lot. It's definitely different. Like it's first world. It's not like, Hungary was that behind, but it was still a little behind compared to the States. And I still need to get used to it, that people do things differently here. And it's not always good or bad. Like sometimes there's a lot of things I like here better, or sometimes things that I'm like, oh my gosh, why do you guys do it here like this? So it's hard. And of course, it would be hard for anyone, I'm guessing, to find new friends, to find your new strive in a way to find the places you want to go to, the places you like. So it's probably really the same for everyone, but it's probably just bigger for me because I switched countries.
Why did you decide to do that?
It's because of my husband, because he's American. And so he was staying there for a while with me, and then we decided to come to the States and to see how we like it here, or how I like it here.
So is the way that you're eating and what you're doing in your life, is that impacting your husband as well, and how you are living together?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have, thankfully he is a good guinea pig, because he mostly follows what I tell him, or like, well, sometimes he's just like, whatever, I'm not going to do that. But most of the time he is really health conscious as well. So it's easy with him, because he is willing to try new things. He's willing to or like, he's really open to hear me out of, why it's not good if you eat that, or if you drink that or something. So he's definitely very supporting and very open in this area. So I'm really happy and lucky with him.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
How are you finding like the culture in the States around health and around where you are specifically? Like, how does it feel? Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're asking. Well, it is, I'm not saying that Hungary doesn't need health coaches, but the States do. Like the States does. The people here, I mean, for me, that was really shocking when I came here. That was one thing that was super shocking, that how much fast food and processed food people eat here. That's like huge. And that's like, it is crazy, because it makes them, or it, like, processed food and fast food makes people sick. And many times there is still a lot of people who I feel like that their heads are in the sand, like they either don't want to, they just don't care, they don't want to realize that how bad it is for them, and how not healthy it is to have a hamburger every 3 days from I'm not going to say names because there's a lot, but anyways, you know what I'm talking about, probably restaurant. And it's just really like a huge thing here. It's definitely different than Hungary. Hungary is getting there too, but it's like a huge thing here. And for me, it was shocking first. I was like, oh my gosh, like even that was shocking that here you literally have a fast food restaurant on every corner, like wherever you go. Well, I mostly lived in bigger cities, but it's just everywhere. So like it's right in front of the people's face. So of course they will go there, if they are not really conscious about it. So it is just one thing that it's pissing me off at the same time, but yeah. that's huge. Yeah.
Have you ever worked with or like had a conversation with someone who's really into the fast food and kind of tried to introduce or explain something for another path with them?
Not really. I didn't have that many American clients yet. Maybe that's why too. I just had, that was weird because I had a Hungarian client who was just very new to all the healthy eating. So with her, it was a little bit weird for me because, well, I'm not saying she asked why, or like she was surprised that, for example, a lot of sugar is not good for you. But I mean, I'm not saying that, she is a bad person because of this. She just wasn't conscious about it, or she just wasn't aware that all these things are really bad for her. And she was just really like, I needed to really control myself not to giggle when she said that, for example, oh, really? So if I put sugar in my coffee, that's going to be bad for me, or something like that, like something ridiculous, and she keeps saying these things when we first talked about why sugar is bad for you. And then she asked me these things, not because she's not, because she's stupid or something like that. It was just so not natural for her that she was just so much into this, eat whatever, and then just buy whatever, what's fastest, what's the cheapest. And so that was definitely a weird experience. I was just really having a hard time. But at the end, she got open. And then, of course, I taught her a lot of things. And then it wasn't like she was against it. she just was, maybe she was a little bit skeptical in the beginning because she was so much into not healthy eating. So yeah, that happened. That was a little strange for sure.
I feel like the best proof about eating healthy is if someone tries it and then after, let's say 3 months or something, just feeling how the person feels in their body, how frequently they felt ill or pain or sick. And that just speaks for itself, so.
For sure. That is very true.
The results are so obvious. And I think for a lot of people that I've spoken with, the trouble is just, we think that we're going to lose our favorite foods. And it's like that coffee with the sugar, like, well, what's going to happen? I really love that. What am I going to replace that with? And there's replacements. And also sometimes we can just phase out and let go of something completely and then really see a different body experience for ourselves.
Exactly. That's very true. For sure. That is typical, especially for the clients who are really not familiar with like healthy eating. Like they can just be amazed how much better they feel and how much their symptoms are just magically gone, So that's yeah.
So you said that you might introduce some group coaching programs soon. Can you like share a little bit about what kind of topics you might be sharing, or is that something you want to keep secret?
No, of course. I mean, it didn't really become like super clear in my mind. So I was just starting to think about it because it's actually so funny that it's just so funny because my friend who knows that I'm healing myself, she asked me, so why don't you help only thyroid people or like who has thyroid issues? And then it just keeps coming back to me. And, like everything has a reason, as one of my favorite sayings says, and universe sends you signs sometimes. But anyway, so I just keep getting more and more people who has issues with their thyroids. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I was like, oh my gosh, I just really need to start doing like a group coaching, because I feel like that if I had like 5 or 6 people who are having the same struggles and the same issues would be able to open up more. I'm not saying they would open up more to the group than to me. I'm just saying that in general, I find that the magic or like the wisdom or like the feeling of like a tribe or like a little group is like so huge that it might be really beneficial for those people. So that's why I think I will try, or I will start out with a thyroid group probably.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it's a really common experience right now for people to have something happening with the thyroid, right?
Oh yeah, that is really typical. Unfortunately, it's almost like every third people. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So is it something that in your own healing journey that you went to a Western doctor and how are you merging both kinds of medicines? Are you healing with nutrition specifically? What's your path with that?
So it's funny because when I was first diagnosed, I just have an enlarged thyroid, so my hormones are fine. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there's like 3 or 4 different kinds of thyroid disease. But what I have doesn't influence, thankfully, my hormones. So my hormones are totally fine. So I don't actually have symptoms. But of course, first I went to a modern doctor, and then the answer I got was, okay, you need to have a surgery, you need to remove it. There is no other way. You're not going to heal, no other way. It's not going to disappear. It's going to just keep bothering you. It's going to grow. You're going to have issues with it. And first, of course, I was super shocked and scared. And it was back then, before I was into this, or before I was into this much about these things. Like I wasn't crazy about health or wellness this much before. I've been spiritual even back then. I was always kind of aware that, all the diseases have like a deeper root in you. But so first I just started out In the first 2 years, I didn't really do anything, to be honest. All I knew that I'm not going to have a surgery. I was like, my thyroid is not there to be removed, and something went wrong in my system. Something got out of the balance, so I'm just not going to have it removed because that's not going to cause the problem. And the problem, since it has a mental root, might show up somewhere else. And I was like, so in 10 years, I'm going to be ending up without organs, or because I made this like thinking about the whole thing. And then so I started first I think I started out with the paleo diet. So like I was just kind of tapping in dark. I was just like kind of researching. But then when I started the school in 2016, that's when I got familiar with a lot of things, which is good for the thyroid. So like that's when I learned that, for example, what are the foods that are necessarily not good for me, or like how important is to release stress for thyroid, or like I kind of learned more and more by time, but I just said no to the surgery. And then what I've tried earlier, it was reflexology. I tried energy healing. I tried energy massage. That was back in Hungary. I've tried those things. But since I'm here now, I definitely, I'm planning to try other things here too, which I've never tried. For example, acupuncture. I also want to try a chiropractor. And there is a lot of other different kinds of like energy healing types here too. So I would definitely want to try new things as well, besides just working on myself. Yeah.
That's like, yeah, an exciting healing journey.
It is. Sure.
So Judit, if people want to connect with you and be supported by you on their healing journey, we're going to put some links in the interview, but just what are you available for right now? Are you taking private coaching clients right now?
Yeah, right now I'm taking private coaching clients. Yeah, I have a few spots which are free. So I'm not exactly, I haven't exactly worked out the details on this group coaching yet. So I would not just promote that yet in a way. But yeah, right now it's private coaching. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, I just thank you for doing the work that you're doing and for going on this path that has led to your healing and is leading to the healing of so many others. I think you're doing great work, and it's just so inspiring to meet people who through their own life are recommitting to helping others.
Thank you. And of course, my pleasure.